No for the Patriot Act twice. The person who said no to the Iraq War. Millions of dollars, but more importantly, hundreds of thousands of lives. What started ISIS and the destabilization of the Middle East that we are still feeling the repercussions of today. That doesn't apologize like somehow that brings lives back, or the soldiers that we did come back suddenly erases their PTSD. Someone who doesn't think that regime change is a good idea, foreign policy in Honduras and Syria and Libya and beyond. Someone who's telling us to vote together. Someone who's going to go into the Oval Office and keep the door open and open up the blinds and the windows and say, let's get to work.
A lot of work.
I'm excited to work for Bernie Sanders. All right, Obama.
Bernie, 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 Bernie.
But I'm introducing. He still calls me Lala. But I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Knowing what New York is really about. Coming together. And understanding that real change comes from the bottom up. Remember, when Martin Luther King was killed, it wasn't because he was pushing on the civil rights movement. He was able to achieve that. It's because he was coming together and asking for a poor man's march on Washington. Bringing black, white, and brown together, talking about how we needed to address our foreign policy and what that has done to devastate and destabilize so many places, so much so that those people are coming here, and many people want to build a wall to stop them. Spike Lee's going to come to the stage and drop the mic. I love you.
Rosario Dawson, give it up. That is a hard act to follow. I'm a filmmaker, not the great. Let me ask a question. Rosario dropping science.
Yeah.
She was dropping science. It's great here to be in the Bronx. The boogie down.
Some gems.
Glad to be here. I'm glad we're out here to support our guy, Bernie from Brooklyn. BK, where you at? Yeah! It's all love. It's all love. It's all love. Look, we all know that this thing is rigged. As the senator just talked about many times. It's rigged. They don't, Rosario State, they don't want to see it together. Say it again.
We don't.
Get my man, where's Obama? Where's Obama at? Where are you at? Obama! Turn face to the crowd.
Obama.
Dead ringer.
Oh my God.
For sure.
Yeah.
But we cannot let separate us. It's beautiful. This is great things about New York City, diversity. Look around. This is what makes us the greatest city on this earth. And the Bronx, home of the 27-time world champion, New York Yankees. Those Mets fans booing. I thought we were unified up here. Unified. Anyway, we cannot go for the okie doke. Have you ever seen the tweet card money? You can't win. You cannot win with the tweet card money. It's the flim flam, the okie doke, the Rudy Poo, hijinks, shenanigans. We can't go for that. Everybody has the right to vote. We have to vote, and we have to talk to our parents. Because the old generation, they're on this Clinton thing.
Man.
And
Legacy.
we gotta talk to our older parents and get their mind right. It's great to be here. Again, I'm not a public speaker. You got to register to vote. New York City is the greatest city on earth. And Bernie has to win New York. Brother York. Even Staten Island.
He dug in case somebody threw something at him.
All right, now I'm gonna bring to the stage Residente, later, peace to mayor.
The who? The RZA? Oh, Residente. Residente calle 13. Dice el reggaetón.
What is his name?
Residente. Calle 13. East 13th Street.
Oh, it's gonna be difficult for me because I speak Spanish, but I'm gonna try to speak in English.
Okay, look, I got you. Got you.
Tonight, I'm not here to talk about economic issues because I'm not an economist. I'm not here to talk about our right to free quality education or free and accessible healthcare. I'm not here to talk of the commitment needed to save our environment from pollution in order to save ourselves. I could speak of the racial injustice that people are suffering in this country and in the rest of the world, and of the need for comprehensive immigration reforms. All of these are serious issues in America, but today I came to speak briefly about the history of Puerto Rico. And a little bit about the history of Latin America. Why I'm here tonight in support of Bernie Sanders. I have traveled the world thanks to my music, and in traveling, I have learned more about the world than I ever learned in college. My name is René. Many also know me as Residente, and I am from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States. We are the oldest colony in the world. For years, we have been used as an experimental island, from the medical experiments on our people to chemical experiments on our land. From 1941 until 2003, on the island of Vieques, the United States Navy undertook a series of experiments with different biological and chemical weapons while using the island as a bombing range. To this day, the land and people of Vieques have not fully recovered from this devastation. There is a Puerto Rican, a political prisoner, who has been incarcerated for
Oscar
over 34
Lopez.
years, longer than Nelson Mandela. His name, Oscar Lopez Rivera. And he
Free Oscar!
today. More than 200,000 Puerto Ricans have served in the U.S. military. In our school, children are taught more about U.S. history than of the history of their own country. That is a colonial education. Without giving you exact numbers, I can tell you that the U.S. gets more out of Puerto Rico economically than Puerto Rico receives from the U.S. We are currently living an unprecedented economic crisis and have the highest rates of poverty and unemployment of any other place in the U.S., yet the U.S. government does not even allow us to restructure our debt. And this is the best one. People in Puerto Rico cannot vote for the President of the United States.
Taxation without representation.
In other words, we are not allowed to choose the person who makes crucial decisions regarding our country. I I did not come here to complain, but rather to put things in proper context. You might wonder what I'm doing here. A person like me with all this information has come to the Bronx to support a candidate for the US presidency. I will explain. I support Bernie Sanders because he has been the only candidate with logical proposals and has expressed support with my country, debt relief.
No.
He did not come up support this now in the middle of an election cycle to win votes, but he spoke out from the moment the economic crisis began.
Yep.
I support Bernie Sanders because I think he is the most honest candidate there is.
Without a doubt.
I support Bernie Sanders because he is the only candidate who fearlessly stand up and defend human rights and the rights of the LGBT community. I support Bernie Sanders because he has spoken out against those Latin American dictatorships financed by the United States, which left This means being opposed to a Pinochet in Chile, Rios Mon in Guatemala, Videla in Argentina, just to name a few. I support Bernie Sanders because someone like Hillary Clinton does not deserve my vote. The thought of Hillary Clinton, who has dared to praise the likes of Henry Kissinger, the author of the Latin American genocide, and the architect of Latin American dictatorships, responsible for all of those who disappeared in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, is enough for me not to vote for her. It will represent an insult to consider yourself Latin American and vote for her. Not just an insult to oneself, but for the many victims who still suffer from this history, an insult to the countless children who have lost their parents and grandparents. I support Bernie Sanders because I know there are still good people like him in this country. If Sanders wins the upcoming election, people will see the United States in a different light.
Yep.
It will no longer be a country that invades, that provokes wars, that quiets people. It will not be a country that tortures or believes in colonies. Instead, the United States will be a country that strives for unity, equality, and peace. If Bernie Sanders were Puerto Rican, I'm certain he will fight with all his might and all his heart, as many Puerto Ricans have done to bring freedom and self-determination to his country. I am here, like all of you, to support Bernie Sanders because we all support changing the world. Thank you, and now, here.
Thank you, South Bronx. Let me thank Nigel Stevens, Erica Andiola, Luis Sepulveda, Judy Sheridan Gonzalez. Let me give a special thanks to Rosario Dawson, to Spike Lee, and to Residente. As you know, I am the very proud United States Senator from Vermont. But I am very proud that I was born here in New York City. That my wife was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father came to this country at the age of 17 from Poland without a nickel in his pocket. He never made much money. We lived in a 3.5 room, rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn. So I learned a little bit about what it means to grow up in a family that has no money. And I also learned a little bit about the immigrant experience. Those lessons I will never forget. What this campaign is about is creating a political revolution. And the 15,000 people who are here this evening.
15,000.
You are the heart and soul of this revolution. And what we are saying loudly and clearly is enough
Is enough!
We want a government that represents all of us, not wealthy campaign contributors. We want a campaign finance system that is not corrupt. We want an economy that is not rigged. We want a criminal justice system that is not broken. We are determined that instead of spending trillions of dollars
Some of these burning.
on a war in Iraq that we never should have gotten into, we are going to reinvest in the South Bronx and it
Bernie, 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 Bernie.
There is no reason in this country why people should be paying 40 or 50% of their limited incomes in housing. There is no reason why people should not have access to the health care that they need. There is no reason why in this country we should not have the best educational system in the world for everybody. There is is no reason why we should have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. There is no reason why we should have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country. What this campaign is about is telling Wall Street and the billionaire class they cannot, they will not have it all. We are going to create a nation in which our people have decent paying jobs, where our children are not unemployed, where our parents and grandparents can live with dignity on Social Security. And that is why we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. We are going to have pay equity for women. It is why we are not going to accept deteriorating inner cities. Why we are going to build affordable housing. Why we are going to rebuild our roads and our bridges and our water systems and our wastewater plants. And when we do that, we create 13 million decent paying jobs. In America today, we will not accept a situation where the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. We will not accept a situation where the 20 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom half of America. We are going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the people on top. In America, people should not have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. And that after all of that, 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That's wrong. In this country, we can and will create a first-class public school educational system. I went to public schools in Brooklyn, New York. I had a good education, and I want every kid in this city and in this state to have a quality, good public education. And that means that instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires or fighting wars we should not be fighting, we're going to be investing in housing and education.
No, you're fine.
In this country, we should not be the only major nation on earth that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave. When a woman has a baby, she has the right to stay home with that baby, not have to go back to work. And when we are talking about women's rights, we are going to stand and make certain that every woman in this country has the right to control her own body. And we are going to stand with our gay brothers and sisters. And we are going to defend their right to be married. You know, a great nation is judged not by how many millionaires and billionaires it has. It is judged by how it treats the most vulnerable people in that country. I will not accept, and you will not accept, children in this country sleeping out on the streets. I will not accept, and you will not accept, senior citizens trying to get by on $11,000 or $12,000 a year Social Security. Instead of having a Congress that works for the benefit of the few, we are going to have a government that works for all of us. Now, I am a member of the committee that wrote the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act has done some very good things. We've ended the so-called obscenity of pre-existing conditions. And we provided insurance to 17 million people who didn't have it. But we have much more to do in healthcare. The United States is the only major country on earth that does not guarantee healthcare to all people as a right. And together we are going to end that. 29 million Americans have no health insurance. Many of you are underinsured with large deductibles and co-payments. And the drug companies are ripping all of us off every single day. And after all of that, we end up spending much more per capita on healthcare than any other country on earth. We are prepared to take on the private insurance companies. Prepared to take on the drug companies. And we are prepared to pass a Medicare for all single-payer program.
Bernie, 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 Bernie.
In my view, something I believe my whole life, healthcare is a right of all people, not a privilege. We are prepared to reform in a major way a broken criminal justice system. It is an international embarrassment that we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. It is not unrelated that we have communities where young kids, white, black, Latino, Native American, are suffering unemployment rates of 30, 40, 50%. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to invest in education and jobs for our kids. Investment in education and jobs, not jails, not incarceration.
Make weed legal too.
And all of us are tired of seeing unarmed people shot and killed. Now, I've been a mayor for 8 years, and I've worked with police all over my state, all over this country. Vast majority of police officers are honest and hardworking. But if a police officer, like any other public official, breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable.
They should be under oath, I think, right?
We do not want to see in communities all over this country police departments look like occupying armies. We need to demilitarize our police departments. We need to make police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We need to end private corporate ownership of prisons and we need to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Over the last 30 years, millions of Americans have been arrested for possession of marijuana. Today, marijuana is listed under the Federal Controlled Substance Act as a Schedule I drug. Right alongside of heroin.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That is pretty crazy. And that is why I have introduced legislation to take marijuana out of the federal control.
I'll burn to that one.
Not only the right thing to do, but it is also a major racial issue. Because it turns out that the black community, the white community, smoke marijuana at about equal levels. Blacks are 4 times more likely to be arrested than whites. Well, let me say something else when we're talking about drugs. In my state and all over this country, we have a major epidemic of heroin addiction and opiate addiction. This is a very serious crisis. The way to deal with that crisis is to understand that drug addiction, substance abuse must be dealt with as a health issue. When we talk about criminal justice reform, let me tell you a brief story. Turns out that Goldman Sachs, one of the large financial institutions, I gather you know about Goldman Sachs.
They found Hillary.
Recently received a $5 billion settlement with the United States government. And they reached that agreement because they were selling worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans.
They should be in jail.
And they and the other Wall Street crooks were the people responsible for driving our economy into the worst recession since the Great Depression.
They should be in jail.
Some kid gets picked up for smoking marijuana in Vermont or New York City. That kid gets a police record. But if you are an executive of a Wall Street firm, you don't get a criminal record for destroying this economy. You get a pay raise. bring justice back to the
down the
criminal
damn
justice
sign!
system. And equal justice under the law means that if you are rich or poor, you will pay the price if you break the law. That includes Let me say a word or two about some of the differences that exist between Secretary Clinton and myself.
You don't need to say it, we know!
When we began this campaign, we had to make a choice, and the choice was, would we do what every other campaign is doing and establish a super PAC? No! We agreed with you. We decided after about 1/10 of a second that we don't represent Wall Street, we don't represent corporate interests, we don't represent the billionaire class.
You don't need them! You got us!
So what we did is reached out to working families all over this country. We have received now over 6 million individual campaign contributions. That is more contributions than any candidate in the history of this country. Anybody know what the average contribution is?
$27!
Right. $27. To paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people,
for the people,
and for the people. Secretary Clinton chose to go in another direction in terms of how she raised her funds. Whoa. She has several super PACs. Her largest super PAC reported raising $25 million from special interests, including $15 million from Wall Street. Now,
she needs it.
In addition to that, as some of you know, Secretary Clinton has given a lot of speeches on Wall Street behind closed doors.
And everything.
And she has received $250,000 a speech. Now, I kind of think that if you're going to get paid $250,000 for a speech, it must be a brilliant speech. It must be an earth-shattering speech written in Shakespearean prose.
Get him, Bird!
And if that speech is so great, I think the American people have the right to hear it.
Nobody wants to hear that.
No one, but I myself have not gotten an invitation to speak on Wall Street.
Wonder why.
Not for $250,000, not for $25,000, not for $2.
Oh shit.
But you know, I got my cell phone on and I'm waiting for the call. And if it comes, this is what I would tell those people on Wall Street. I would tell them. I would tell them that their greed, their recklessness, and their illegal behavior has destroyed this economy.
Yes!
faces.
resulting in millions of Americans losing their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. I would tell them that they were bailed out by Congress against my vote.
Yep.
Because the big banks were too big to fail. But today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks are bigger now than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. And I would tell them that when you have a handful of financial institutions with so much economic and political power, now is the time to break them up. All of you know that learning and growing intellectually is a part of who we are as human beings. And all of you know that we live in a competitive global economy where we need the best educated workforce on earth.
Yep.
Now, 50 years ago, if you had a high school degree, you were doing pretty well, and the likelihood is you can go out and get a good job and make it in the middle class. But the economy and the world and technology have changed. And that is why I believe that when we talk about public education today, it is not good enough just to talk about first grade through 12th grade. We need to make public colleges and universities tuition. You know, my mother and father never went to college, but I want every kid in the South Bronx